couple of days ago on the Instagram, I put a little poll to get some questions, and I got a really great question that I would love to share with you guys and then offer a solution for. The only reason I'm doing this is because I think this particular challenge, whether traders know it or not, it runs them and it has an impact on their trading. So I wanted to bring this to surface, and I wanted to share a solution that I've put in place for myself, I've put in place for clients in the past, and that I talk about in the 12-week program. This is something I personally experienced throughout my life as well, so I wanted to share it with you and give some personal experience on it as well. Anyway, the question was along the lines of, sometimes I feel worthy about making money easily or a lot more money from trading an hour or two compared to the money that my family earns from working hard, long hours. How can I change this feeling and stop limiting my earning potential in trading? I think whether traders know it or not, they are run by this particular conundrum, this particular challenge, where they have certain beliefs or ideals of how much time it should take to make a certain amount of money, or what you have to be doing to make money. I was working with a client not long ago on a one-to-one basis whose dad was a truck driver, and they worked incredibly long and hard hours. I mean, 18 hours a day, driving a huge truck that is very physically, immensely demanding on low sleep, etc., etc. And this individual had issues with being able to being at their desk, making significantly more money than what their dad was doing from trading, much easier, much quicker, much easier. And we create these mental ceilings and we create these mental barriers in our mind that ultimately limit us subconsciously. Sometimes they're conscious, but a lot of times they're not conscious. And I think this individual who put that question there obviously has some great self-awareness and recognized this, and they recognize that this particular challenge was stopping them. What I'm gonna do in this particular video is share how you can overcome this and how you can break through these ceilings and how you can ultimately free yourself and free your earning potential up. For a very limited time only, I've opened up a free trial for the 12-week program. Now, this is my signature program that I've synthesized everything I've learned over the last 6.5 years in my own trading journey, in my studies of human behavior and psychology, working with hundreds of traders one-on-one and having thousands of traders come through my programs. This is the complete A to Z on trading mindset mastery. It's going to help you overcome your psychological challenges. It's going to help you get funded or continue to scale funding or continue to hold on to your funding. It's going to help you go off and accomplish great things in your trading and in your life. For a limited time only, I've opened up a free trial. So if you haven't been part of the 12-week program already, make sure you take advantage of this free trial. It's going to be a mind blower. I look forward to seeing you in there. When we talk about this particular challenge, we have to understand, and great psychologists like Abraham Maslow and Lawrence Kohlberg talked about these particular things. They talked about stages of moral development. And I'm going to sort of allude to that in the principle I share with you today. But we are, whether we like it or not, we are subordinate to certain things in society or certain things in our family or certain people in society. When we're born initially, the first person we subordinate to is usually our mother, or the individual who played the mother role in our life. Then usually it's our father or the person who played the father role in our life. And then it goes out. As we get older and older, we start to subordinate to teachers, to coaches, to idols, to people we admire in our space. What you have to understand is that if we subordinate to an individual, subconsciously or consciously, we're not going to outperform that individual. And we're going to have certain limits, or we're going to have certain standards, we're going to have certain beliefs in our mind about what that individual has done. And if we are subordinate to that individual, we're not going to outperform them. And we're not going to break through that particular ceiling. And a lot of people use the word self-sabotage here. They say that, I'm getting close to outperforming what my father would make on a yearly salary, but then I find ways to self-sabotage. I find ways to spend it. I find ways to give it away. I attract certain things into my life that make me have to spend that particular money, so I don't end up making more than what my father did. It's this type of language that I see commonly, and it's an indication that there's still some level of a subordination to an individual. Usually it's the father in a family dynamic. For this particular example, let's discuss it like this. Let me completely summarize the overall arching principle and say that, let's say for example, and this is just as an example, there are more stages to this. You've got 3 stages. You've got your family standards, your family beliefs that you subordinate to. And maybe you look up to your parents and you're really subordinate to your parents. You don't want to let your parents down. You want your parents' approval. And what's going to happen is you're going to be stuck playing at that stage, your family standards, your family's beliefs. You're not going to be able to break through that. Now, the individuals who do break through their family and the ideals ideals that the family creates are then met with ideals set by society. And there's going to be certain standards and beliefs and ideas that society sets that if you are subordinate to the certain individuals who set those standards in society, then you're not going to be able to break through those standards and break through those ceilings. Those individuals who do, the very few individuals who break out the family standards and then break out of the society standards, can then truly break free from the limits around them and have a look at themselves, at the individual, and ask, what is it I would love to do with my life? Or what is it that I want to go off and do? And there's very few individuals that actually get clear on what that is and live according to their own standards and live according to their own beliefs and ideals and those types of things. If you have a look at someone like Elon Musk, chances are Elon Musk isn't subordinate to his parents. He's transcended past that stage. Chances are he isn't subordinate to a lot of people in society. He's transcended that stage. He is an example of a leader who sets the standards. He sets the beliefs and he sets the ideals of what's possible in society. For most of the things he does, he doesn't play by society's rules. He goes off and sets that. And that's an indication of an individual who's transcended a lot of the stages of development and is living on his own turf. He is literally a troll. He goes off and does what he wants to a large degree, and he doesn't have many limits because he has the power to go off and do that. That's an extreme example. There are certain stages that you have to transcend, but the first stage that a lot of people don't break out of, and I see this very common with coaching clients who come through my 12-week program, is they don't break out their own initial family. They're still subordinate to their parents. They're still subordinate to their immediate family, and they wonder why they can't outperform the amount of finances that's made in the family. They can't outperform certain standards that the family sets, and they can't go off and a lot of the times they don't feel like they feel worthy or they feel deserving of the money, and they don't feel worthy of being, having that entrepreneurial spirit and being able to make an impact in people's lives. So I'm going to share an exercise in this particular video that has been useful for me, and it's also been useful for an immense amount of my clients and students going through the 12-week program to start transcending these levels. I want to put a caveat here. I'm not saying it's what you have to do is you have to go and be completely counter to what your family does, but I made a statement on my Instagram that your family is there to love and not to subordinate to. You find that your family is there to have a support network, a group of individuals that you love and love you, but the last thing you want to be doing is subordinating to your parents and just focusing on trying to please your parents and please your family, because oftentimes what happens is people don't go off and pursue what they love. They don't go off and go off and do what it is they want. They don't get the results they want. They live a life of quiet desperation, for example. So the particular exercise that I've shared on this YouTube channel, I've shared it in my 12-week program prior, is an exercise called owning the traits of the greats. This is a thing that I learned from Dr. DeMartini, who's a human behavioral specialist. And this is an exercise that I've done quite frequently and often in my life, and I continue to do when I notice ideals that I'm subordinating to, or these people that I put up on a pedestal and think that initially I can't outperform them. But going in and doing this exercise is essential. And what it is, and what I recommended this individual who posted on my Instagram do, is identify the father. It's usually the father figure in the family that sets the standard. And you want to take the father and you want to find all the things you admire about that particular individual and find what is it that you admire about the father and then the mother after as well, and go and own those things in your own life in your own unique form. The reason we subordinate to standards is because we believe that whatever that individual or whatever that standard is, we just don't have that within ourselves. We're self-minimizing towards the individual that sets the standard. So a lot of the times in family dynamics, individuals don't feel like they're meeting up to the standards of the father. They've got them up on a pedestal, and as a result, they're not going to outperform the standards in which they set. The exercise is about taking all the specific things that you admire about the father. Maybe it's their ability to go and work hard and long hours and provide for the family. And you want to go and find where in your unique form you have that. And for example, you're going to have a look at where you've done the same thing as your father in your own life. Maybe you have gone off and provided financially for your family. You can also look at similar examples, and maybe you haven't provided financially, but you've provided in other ways. Maybe you've provided with different perspectives or different beliefs, or you provided maybe you've provided education to your family. Maybe you've just provided comfort and support and love to your family. You want to go and find where you have the thing you admire, for example, the father, within yourself. And what you start to do is you start to own the traits, the individual traits that you admire in this individual, and you start to realize that, hey, that individual I admire, I have those exact same characteristic traits in my own form, in my own life. And when you get to a perfect reflection, and when you own that trait 100%, you realize that, holy shit, that thing I admire in that individual I have in my own life, and I see it within myself, and I've got it in my own unique form, what you realize is there's no need to put this individual up on a pedestal anymore. There's no need to subordinate to that individual anymore. But you get to the point of respecting that individual for what they've done and what they've accomplished, and you free yourself up to go off and focus on what it is you love to do. And I think especially in the trading industry, and if you want to do anything entrepreneurial or performance-based, you have to learn to break out your own family standards and your own family's beliefs. Now, some families have very high standards and very high beliefs, but I would still encourage you to break out of those so you can really free yourself up to focus on what's right for you and what's true and congruent for you. Because a lot of people are doing things to please their parents. They're not going off and living to their full potential because out of fear of disapproval from the parents. So this exercise has been something that's been immensely useful in my life, family, and also even looking in this industry, there's certain people that you may admire or you may look up to. Go and own the traits of those individuals. It's a bad thing to admire people, look up to people, but what you want to do is you want to own the traits, you want to see where you have those in your own unique form, and then you get to a point when you're a level playing field, you respect other individuals for their knowledge in that respect, in that little niche and what they've accomplished, but you also realize that you have your own unique form of that, and you're not self-minimizing in respect to that individual. You're level with them, you still respect them, but you're also free to go off and set your own standards and do your own thing, and realize that there's no need to subordinate to anybody else. I can have a look at other individuals, I can be inspired by what they've done, I can learn from their standards, but there's no need to subordinate, there's no need to live in their shadows. I'm going to go off and do what it is I would love to do. And tying this back to that initial question by that guy on my Instagram, it's by doing this exercise over and over and over that you take the individuals you admire off the pedestals, you stop injecting the beliefs, you stop injecting their standards, you stop injecting what they think is a standard or a ceiling for them. What happens psychologically when you take these individuals off the pedestal is you start to feel worthy of higher standards, and you start to feel worthy of going off and accomplishing things beyond what these individuals have done, and you start to stand on their shoulders. And if you think about it, that's what you should be doing anyway. These individuals have gone off, and especially, parents and father figures, and they've built the life they have now. That's a stepping stone for the next generation to come on. It's like that whole idea of the student should outperform the master, because the master's gone through the hard yards themselves. They've learned a lot, they've set an example, and the student's there to learn from that and to grow from that and stand on the shoulders of the master and continue on. So I'm a huge believer that owning the traits is essential. You have to own the traits of the individuals you admire in your life, and if you see someone you really admire, go and find where you have that in your own unique form, and you realize there's no need to self-minimize these individuals. It's about respecting them for the work, the effort, the intellect, or the beauty or the financial success they've had in their unique form, and then you realize you have it yourself. You start to connect with these individuals on a different level. You start to use what these people have accomplished as inspiration as opposed to self-minimizing to it and living a life of quiet desperation. And you start to break through any psychological barriers or psychological ceilings you have. And as a trader, I think this is essential. I mean, there are countless stories of clients that have done this exercise, especially it's very common with the dad-son or the dad-daughter dynamic of owning the traits of the father and realizing that whatever you admire in your father, you have within your own unique form. That I really start to see some clients break through the financial ceilings that they've put in their mind. This self-sabotage isn't there anymore because now they feel worthy of the money, they feel worthy of the standard they're performing at, and they're going off and accomplishing great things. Technology is so much more advanced now than what it was 50 years ago, and opportunities are more readily available than they've ever been. So I believe individuals nowadays owe it to themselves to not subordinate to the previous generation, not subordinate to anybody else around them, but to find what's most congruently true for them and go off and just pursue it. And when you do these exercises, when you own the traits 100% and you don't half-ass it, you actually sit down with a pen and pad, go and find specific moments where you've demonstrated the same action in your own life, and you do that 50, you do that 100 times until you're certain you truly reflect that trait in your own life, and you hold yourself accountable to a high standard of doing the work. You get results with it. At least in your mind, you see yourself in a different light, and as a result, you act in a different way. And as a result, you get the results you desired. It's a little bit of the Pygmalion effect as well. Hopefully this is insightful. Again, like I mentioned, we cover these steps A to Z in critical detail in the 12-week program. I give you all the tools, I give you all the accountability, I give you all the step-by-step procedures to ensure that you're going in and doing the exercises correctly into completion, and you're actually seeing results in that particular program. And that has a results-based guarantee, 100% money back guarantee if you don't find yourself progressing as a trader. It's a really profound transformational program. Like I mentioned, we currently have a 7-day free trial, so make sure you check that out. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you all in the next video. Take care.